Welcome to ILTV's Israel Daily. I'm Aaron Porras, and coming up in today's newscast, thousands are still fighting police and the government in protest against coronavirus lockdowns, likely leading the country to additional lockdowns in the near future. Tree-hugging hippies take the lead in showing us how to regain some long-overdue connections during the pandemic. And an amazing new Apple Award-winning app seeks to create creatives of us all. Stick around to see the incredible possibilities. Far from flattening the curve, Israeli hospitals are warning that they'll soon be completely overrun should coronavirus infections continue to rise at their current pace. Yet thousands are still protesting government restrictions, hurling the Jewish state towards widespread lockdowns. Another night, another protest. Ultra-Orthodox men and boys turning their Jerusalem neighborhood into a fire den for the third straight day, burning dumpsters and kicking them towards border police while chanting slogans. Demonstrating against government lockdowns, Israel's second coronavirus wave, police arresting some 16 people this time. 10 were arrested Saturday when hundreds demonstrated throwing stones, eggs, and other objects at officers. And on Sunday, some tearing down police barricades set up to enforce the neighborhood closures. On Friday, lockdowns were enforced in 5 cities, including Haredi enclaves in Jerusalem and Beit Shemesh. This as infection numbers grow. The health ministry reporting Monday more than 1,500 in the past 24 hours, bringing the total cases to more than 41,000, over 21,000 of them active, and the number of serious cases surging then to 177, more than doubling the tally 6 days ago. The death toll sitting at 368. Government officials are saying that there is no way to escape another lockdown.
אני מודאג מאוד מהעלייה במספר החולים, ואני מדבר אליכם כרופא.
Health Ministry Director General Chezi Levi lamenting the Knesset's coronavirus cabinet committee's decision to reopen gyms and pools.
אני לא בטוח שכולנו מבינים עד כמה יש עלייה.
Meantime, treatment standards in Israeli hospitals are expected to fall, leading to a higher chance of dying from COVID-19. That's according to a Hebrew University research team, giving an ominous outlook, predicting another 100 deaths before the end of July. The researchers running the numbers saying that more than 1,000 patients would be in moderate and serious condition within 24 days if infections continue to spread at current rates. This, roughly the capacity of Israel's healthcare system. And poll numbers aren't looking good for the government in its handling of the crisis either. A new Israeli Democracy Institute survey finding only 40.5% saying that they have trust in the government medical experts, 29.5% in Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, and 27% in Health Minister Yuli Edelstein. The fall in faith coming not only from those who class themselves on the other side of the political spectrum to the Prime Minister, but also among Netanyahu's own Likud party voters. Now, yesterday, the Israeli coronavirus cabinet approved of Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu's and Finance Minister Israel Katz's economic relief package for businesses, the self-employed, and other workers impacted most by the coronavirus outbreak. And here to help us break it down is ILTV contributor and consumer behavior expert, Dr. Vili Abraham. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, so over the weekend, we saw massive demonstrations, protesters still ongoing, complaining that they weren't receiving enough government support. But among the new measures included in the package are an extension of eligibility for unemployment benefits through June 2021, monthly adjustment grants of 4,000 shekels or around $1,100 for workers above the age of 67 who lost their jobs due to the outbreak, extended to the end of 2020, and a bi-monthly grant of up to 15,000 shekels or around $4,300 for self-employed businesses hit by the pandemic, also extended through to June 2021. Does this new program improve these people's situation in any significant way?
Well, if we break it up to how it can contribute to the private citizens of Israel and to businesses, I think that taken all together, I think it does make a dent to some populations. Because remember that there are deferrals on loan payments. There's also exemption from land taxes for businesses until the end of June. So it does make a difference to, especially to those who are in the small business field, small to medium businesses. You cannot make up for all the lost income, but I think it does help. And I think that for the first time we can say that probably due to the pressure coming from the public, the government is really trying to make an effort to help the general public. And I hope it just executes and really does transfer the monies.
So you think that, I mean, as long as, yeah, because that you just touched on it, that's another big issue that people have been complaining about, is that, you know, when the money is there, they're still not getting it. So assuming that the money actually goes, a second complaint is that, again, it's not enough. So you're saying that this will go far enough to keep people afloat until the unemployment rate can come down?
For the average Israeli, yes, but we have to remember that there are lots of businesses who are losing lots of money, hundreds of thousands of shekels every week, and sometimes even millions. If you look at movie theaters, for example, and all of those who are into the occasions business, the wedding halls, they're losing a lot of money. So I think that this cannot make up for the lost income. But if you look at the small businesses, the self-employed individuals, which we have hundreds of thousands of them, I think it can make a difference, especially taken together with the deferral of the mortgage until the end of June, and until the end of October, and exemption from land taxes, Arnona.
All right, now, as we mentioned earlier, the government approved of an extension of payment for the unemployed for almost another year, but it set conditions regarding this section. Could you explain, what that means?
Yeah, well, the cost of the plan is 85 billion shekels, and there's also increase to the loan fund, which is now 23 billion shekels. So this is how it works. So 100% of unemployment benefits will be paid until the end of June, or until the unemployment rate decreases to 10%. We're quite far away from that right now. Unemployment is above 20%. 75% of unemployment benefits will be paid if unemployment is below 10%, and no unemployment benefits will be paid if unemployment is below 7.5%. That would still leave a lot of people unemployed, but according to the plan right now, it looks like the government is trying to provide more assistance for the longer term.
All right, and in addition, the Bank of Israel announced yesterday the extension, as you mentioned, an outline for deferring loan and mortgage payments. What specifically are they offering to the public who have difficulty making these payments?
Okay, so now Israelis can put payments on hold until the end of October. So if you've taken a loan, to renovate your apartment or to buy a new car, that's a great thing. However, we have to remember that you will be paying interest rates. Okay, you'll be paying your interest. So let's say you took a loan that is 1,600 shekels, you might need to pay about 400 shekels every month, but still, it makes life easier. And there will also be deferrals on mortgages. So it means that if you have a mortgage, you will be able to defer payment until the end of October. And I think that makes a lot of difference. And by the way, until now, banks were able to decide whether to give you a exemption from paying back loans from 3 months to 6 months. But now they have to do it unless you're a business. If you're a business, you have to submit a request, and they might say, well, I'm sorry, we can't, or yes, we can give you an additional 3 months.
Wow. All right. Well, so there's a lot of news out there. There's a lot of stuff to wrap our heads around economically. Doctor, thank you so much for shedding some light on it.
Pleasure.
Speaking of the economy, the Palestinian Authority is set to ease restrictions within a further 2-week lockdown. It's responding to an outcry by struggling business owners. Despite 12 days of lockdown, the PA Health Ministry continues to confirm hundreds of new COVID-19 cases every day. The majority are in the Hebron area, but new outbreaks are spreading across the West Bank, especially in the refugee camps. And as cases mount, shortages of tests and ventilators are worrying authorities, with testing labs in Hebron and Bethlehem reportedly on the verge of closing. Now, Israel constantly seems to be running from putting out one fire to putting out the next, but this fire was a bit more literal. Take a look. Massive flames filling the sky with smoke this morning. A near tragedy was narrowly averted in the coastal city of Haifa. Firefighters successfully wrestling the blaze, sparked by the collision between a gas tanker carrying 20 tons of liquid petroleum gas and a private car. A massive explosion could have let loose at any minute. In fact, Haifa Fire Station Commander, Deputy Chief of Staff Chazi Levi, is saying that we prevented one of the great disasters that the state of Israel could experience. With strokes of luck, too, both drivers in the tanker and vehicle were able to escape on their own, relatively unharmed. and allowing emergency responders to deal with the flames quickly and from a safe distance, they arrived with a brand new truck that had just arrived not 30 days before. It sports advanced abilities like a 10,000 liter per minute pump and a water cannon that can reach over 140 meters or 450 feet in the air. They are beautiful creatures of the sea, dancing along the coastlines every year. But let's be honest though, Israelis are often less than thrilled during jellyfish season. And now maybe less so, because here's the bad news, or good news depending on how you look at it. Researchers have found that the species of stingers reaching Israeli shores seem to be getting larger as well as more diverse. The question is why? Well, to tell us more, I'm joined by Professor Dror Angel from the Institute of Marine Studies and Department of Maritime Studies, School of Marine Sciences at the University of Haifa. Dror, thank you so much for being with us. Now, tell us a little bit more about the discovery that you've made. What do you believe are the reasons for it?
I wouldn't call it a discovery. I would call it an observation. We find that generally this time of year, the jellyfish tend to be smaller, and this year they seem to be arriving bigger. And we think that it is related to the fact that we had a wet winter that gave a lot of food for the jellyfish at sea. There was runoff. The runoff brought nutrients to the sea, and this allowed the food web to enlarge and feed the jellyfish so that we have bigger jellyfish. They had more food. They got bigger, and that's the current supposition. We haven't proven that. We just think this is what's going on.
So how much bigger are you observing them to be on average? Is there like
on average this time of year they'd be somewhere like about 25, 30 centimeters in diameter. We're finding lots of jellyfish that are 40, 45, 50, 60 centimeters in diameter. We see big guys in the winter, so it's the wrong time of year for seeing really big jellyfish. There were some jellyfish that were so big we tried to collect them and we just couldn't get them onto the boat in the buckets that we were collecting with, so that they're that big. Yeah.
So what are you able, to learn from this kind of, change in this variety of creatures as well?
We see the jellyfish every year, so this is not something new or unique. We see changes every year. Every year the situation is different. The environment has different things that affect it. So we see, like I say, a very rainy winter that yielded an explosion of animals in the sea. Fortunately, during the corona, I was able to do a dive and see just amazing stuff in the sea. We don't usually see such richness as far as animal life goes. And it probably carries over to the jellyfish as well. They've got lots to eat, and so they'll grow, they'll respond. Once there's less food, they'll get smaller, or they'll simply die. But things change all the time. It could be that what we're seeing is one of the signs of global warming, or climate change, I should say, rather than global warming. But these creatures continue to teach us things that we didn't expect or know in the sea.
All right, so what to you is maybe the most amazing thing for us to know about jellyfish?
There's lots of stuff we don't know. So there's lots of things that are curious about them. I think that one of the things that's really cool about the jellyfish is the reproduction. We reproduce in one way, sexually. Jellyfish reproduce sexually, but then as in addition to that, they also produce many different ways asexually. They can produce buds that will create a new jellyfish. They can do something called strobilation, which is formation of these discs that then release baby jellyfish, which then grow and become the adult jellyfish. They can do something called creation of podocysts. They leave a little bit of tissue, and they hop along when they're benthic, and they create more polyps. But one of the really mind-boggling mysteries is that all around the world, not only in Israel, we have no idea where these polyps, the benthic, the sessile stages are. So we see the adults in the water. They sting us, they're annoying and everything else, but the other stages of the life cycle are invisible. They're mysterious. We don't know where they are.
Interesting. And I mean, as I understand it, correct me if I'm wrong, there's also a species of jellyfish that's effectively immortal or functionally immortal, that it can revert back to its polyp stage and then just grow old again.
It's probably true of many species. There's one species in particular that's been studied a lot. And when you annoy it, it simply goes back to a more larval stage. It's very cool. So rather than dying, it'll simply go back to become a younger stage of the same form. Yeah. So it's essentially immortal. You can try to kill it, and it'll go back and hang out and wait until things are better and then grow again.
Wow, that is so cool. All right, Professor Angel, thank you so much for coming and teaching us a little bit more about these things.
Take care.
All right, Tel Aviv University has taken on a bat's eye view to uncover an incredible discovery, set to be published in the forthcoming issue of Science magazine. Using some 22 fruit bat pups born in a colony raised at the university, researchers developed tiny GPS trackers, attached them to the bats to discover that bats are much like humans in the way that they create visual maps to see. This is the first time that this kind of tracking has been done on any living creature. The scientists discovered that bats flying above Tel Aviv are using large landmarks like Azrieli Towers and the Dizengoff Mall to navigate over long distances. It's an exciting development, as it's thought that sonar was the way that these blind creatures moved about, but that's apparently just for short distances. Now, this next story may strike you as a bit different, maybe even strange, but don't knock it until you try it. Israel's Nature and Parks Authority has some advice for the nature lover in you. It's a tough world out there these days, and we all need a little peace and love. So maybe the tree huggers are onto something. The Israeli Nature and Parks Authority is now encouraging Israelis to get over their sense of detachment due to the coronavirus restrictions and get some lovin' in the woods.
In this unpleasant corona period, we recommend to the people around the world to go out to the nature, take a deep breath, hug a tree, express your love, and get love.
While taking the authorities' advice to heart, dozens of Israelis, young and old, are heading to the woods and parks around the country.
One of the hardest things about corona is that the most basic human need is for connection, for touching, for hugging. So apart from my partner, I can't hug my children, my grandchildren. So nature is beautiful, so you express your love for nature by hugging a tree. That's what we're doing.
Under Israel's increasingly tough hygiene restrictions, people are asked to stay at least 2 meters away from those outside the home at all times. This solution then, as our tree huggers attest to, offers some much-needed connection.
I think we are not hugging too many people these days, not our children, not our grandchildren, and hugging a tree is quite a nice thing to do. We have no other alternative to hug. I can hug pet from the morning to the evening, but hugging a tree is quite a very special thing to do.
And also we wanted to try a ménage à tree.
So it's working quite nicely. We can recommend it.
All right, so you heard them. Go hug a tree. It's for your health. Now, what will education look like in the years to come? Well, the Israeli American Council, or IAC, and Tel Aviv University Innovative Learning Center are having an interactive e-summit that is currently underway, and it's trying to give us an exclusive look into how innovation and technology will shape the future of learning. Shoham Nicolay, the founding and present CEO of the Israel American Council, joins me with more. Thank you so much for being with us. Now, the coronavirus seems to have come coincidentally at just the right moment for our transition to a more accessible use of technology with respect to education. Do you think that it will be irreversible, this change?
I think that, first of all, thank you for having me. I think that everything that relates to COVID-19 and everything that is going on after COVID-19, whatever it's happening, the first thing we need to say, I don't know. I can only assume that we're not going back. And I don't think that the world is going to become an online world with online learning only. I think that it's going to be somewhere in between, what we call hybrid, that we'll see more online learning, more online engagement, more online collaboration. But I do believe that the physical world will go back in a certain way, in different way, but we will go back to the physical world.
All right, well, some of the lecturers speaking at this summit are educators from Israel and some from the United States. What are the similarities between the needs of these two very diverse communities?
I think that both the challenges and opportunities are in many ways similar. There are many different differences in culture, but at the end of the day, for example, is how you create social interaction that is so important for learning when you have when you study mainly in distance learning, for example. How you really create the not only social interaction, but the communication between teacher and student that would be effective. How you make sure that you give the individual focus for each student. So these are the challenges, but the opportunities are also there. We can now imagine a more affordable and scalable and accessible education.
All right, now my final question. One of the problems that worries parents and educators most when they think of change in schooling and the integration of technology is the loss of personal connection. How can we help students develop interpersonal skills when they're increasingly in front of a screen or a keyboard?
I think that absolutely, it is a concern. It's a concern also for the educators. It's a concern for an organization that is building a community. But I think that there are some methods, for example, working in small groups, for example, having multiple interactions and making sure that you give individual focus for each participant. But I also think that we need to think about the smart ways to get back to the physical world in small groups whenever it's possible.
Sure.
So this interconnections and the communication is online, but also we need to make sure that we know how to go back to the physical world in a smart way, smart and safe way.
All right, Shoham, thank you so much, and good luck with this conference.
Thank you so much.
Now, for all you creatives out there, watch closely because we've never seen a program quite like this, and it could be a glimpse into the future standard of hand-drawn animation. Gorgeous colors, seamless design processes, and infinite possibilities. This is Loom, an Israeli-Swedish designed application revolutionizing hand-drawn animation. With beginners in mind, the deceptively advanced application works effortlessly and intuitively, helping animators of all skill levels create animated loops in minutes. And the results are out of this world, animators sharing their Loom works on Instagram under #MadeWithLoom. Created by Iorama Studios, the app stitches together loops, and it can export to other programs like Adobe Animate. It's also vector-based, meaning you can enlarge your images to whatever size you want on an infinite scale without ever losing quality. While Loom's programmer, Swedish music and video game engineer Finn Eriksson, and Loom's developer, the Israeli Eran Hilleli, himself an animator, designer, and lecturer at Jerusalem's Bezalel Academy of Art and Design, they describe Loom as so playful you'll think it's a toy, when really it's a secretly robust app boasting an out-of-this-world reimagined interface for animators and creators. And it's just become one of this year's 8 globally recognized programs at the Apple Design Awards, too. Notified online due to the coronavirus, Apple executives contacted designer Hilleli to share the news. Then again, don't just take our or even Apple's word for it. You can check out Loom for yourself in the Apple App Store for just $9.99. All right, let's take a look at the weather forecast.
The weather forecast brought to you by Goy Gentile Lawyers, the freedom that security provides.
Tonight will be humid and warm again with lows hanging around 71 Fahrenheit or 22 degrees Celsius. Then tomorrow you can expect a slight rise in daily temperatures with sunny skies and average highs of about 94 degrees Fahrenheit or 34 degrees Celsius. And now before we go, of course, let's take a look at what's going viral in Israel. Oh my God, I'm learning all of my new dance moves from this baby right here. It's got rhythm. I love it. All right, finally, this will be our final broadcast from these studios. Starting tomorrow, we'll be delivering news from Israel from a brand new location. So I just want to extend a special thank you to all our amazing friends and family at the Walla News channel. For over 3 years, you've welcomed ILTV with incredible warmth, and we can't even begin to describe how much that means to us. We'll miss you truly, and thank you again. And with that, that is it for today's news. Today's exchange rate is 3.45 shekels to the American dollar. For more news from ILTV, please like ILTV on Facebook, follow us on Instagram, and subscribe to our YouTube and Roku TV pages. I'm Aaron Porras. Thank you so much for watching.